He came to the cafe not as a billionaire, but as an ordinary person. But no one recognized him. Everyone judged him by his clothes, not by who he really was. Some people showed kindness, others showed contempt. But they did not know that this meeting would change their lives forever. Fire. What if you disrespected someone without knowing that this person could change your future? What if your kindness opened doors for you that you never dreamed of? One choice, and everything could have turned out differently. This story will show you what justice really means. The brisk London morning was alive with the sounds of a city that never truly slept. The streets were lined with hurried pedestrians, some clutching steaming cups of coffee, while others buried their hands deep into their coat pockets, shielding themselves from the sharp bite of the autumn wind. Among the bustling crowd, one man stood apart, not for his presence, but for his deliberate attempt to go unnoticed. Elon Musk was not dressed in his usual sharp suits or sleek casual wear that screamed affluence. Instead, he had transformed himself into an entirely different persona. His hair, usually well-groomed, was hidden under a worn-out beanie, and his face was obscured by an unruly, bushy beard and mustache. His clothes were far from his usual attire. An oversized jacket, frayed jeans, and scuffed boots that looked like they had walked 1,000 miles. He had even smeared some dirt on his hands and under his nails to complete the illusion. Today, he wasn't here as the billionaire tech mogul. He was just another man trying to get a cup of coffee. He had chosen the Queen's Bean, a well-known cafe near the heart of London, nestled between towering buildings that whispered of old-world charm and modern elegance. It was a hotspot for professionals, students, and tourists alike, a melting pot of the city's diverse population. But Elon wasn't interested in its reputation for good coffee. He wanted to see how people would treat him when he appeared to be just another ordinary man, maybe even someone struggling. As he approached the entrance, a firm hand suddenly blocked his way. "Hold on there, mate. This isn't a shelter," a deep voice grumbled. It was the cafe's security guard, a burly man named Graham. His broad shoulders and no-nonsense expression made it clear that he wasn't in the mood for any trouble. Elon tilted his head slightly, feigning confusion. "I'm just here for a coffee," he said, pulling out a few crumpled bills from his pocket to emphasize his point. Graham narrowed his eyes, his gaze flickering between Elon's attire and the money in his hand. "Look, I don't want to cause a scene, but we don't usually get people like you in here," he said, lowering his voice just enough to make it sound like he was doing Elon a favor. Elon let the words sink in. The implication was clear. If he looked a certain way, he didn't belong here. This was exactly what he had come to experience. "I have money. I just want a cup of coffee," he repeated, his voice even but firm. Graham hesitated, glancing toward the cafe's interior. The place was busy, customers chattering away, the hum of espresso machines filling the air. The last thing he wanted was to make a scene. With a sigh, he stepped aside. "Fine, just don't cause any trouble." Elon nodded and stepped inside. The warmth of the cafe was immediate, the rich aroma of roasted coffee beans wrapping around him like a comforting embrace. He ignored the subtle glances from nearby customers who had noticed his entrance. Some looked away quickly, while others let their gaze linger just a moment too long, as if wondering how he had made it past the door. He approached the counter where two baristas were working. One was a young man with an easy smile and an approachable demeanor, and the other was a woman who looked as though she'd rather be anywhere else. Their name tags read Oliver and Lucy. "Good morning. What can I get for you?" Oliver greeted him with genuine enthusiasm. Before Elon could respond, Lucy rolled her eyes. "You've got to be kidding me," she muttered under her breath, though loud enough for both Elon and Oliver to hear. Oliver shot her a look, but kept his attention on Elon. "What would you like?" "A cappuccino, please," Elon said, handing over the money. Oliver nodded and began preparing the drink, but Lucy continued to watch Elon with thinly veiled disdain. "You sure you can afford it?" she asked, her tone laced with sarcasm. Elon met her gaze evenly, but said nothing. He wasn't here to argue, just to observe. Oliver, sensing the tension, hurried to finish the order and placed the steaming cup in front of Elon. "Here you go. Enjoy." Elon took the coffee and moved to a small table near the window. From there, He had a clear view of both the counter and the other customers. He wasn't just here for the treatment he received. He wanted to see how others were treated as well. As he sipped his coffee, he watched as Lucy interacted with different customers. A well-dressed businessman in a tailored suit approached the counter, and her entire demeanor changed. She smiled, her voice suddenly sweet as honey. "Good morning, sir. What can I get for you today?" The difference was stark, almost jarring. Elon continued to observe as another customer, an elderly woman, approached with a slow, cautious gait. She hesitated before asking a question about the menu, and Lucy barely concealed her impatience, tapping her fingers on the counter. "It's all right there on the board, ma'am," she said, her tone clipped. Oliver, on the other hand, leaned in slightly and explained the menu with patience, offering recommendations based on what she might enjoy. The elderly woman smiled warmly and placed her order with him instead. Elon took another sip of his cappuccino, letting the reality of what he was seeing sink in. It wasn't just him. Lucy's attitude shifted depending on who was in front of her. She respected wealth, dismissed the struggling, and barely tolerated anyone in between. And Oliver? He was a rare exception. He stayed for almost an hour, quietly observing the ebb and flow of interactions. As he finished his coffee, he stood up and walked back to the counter. Oliver was cleaning up while Lucy was absorbed in her phone, ignoring the growing line of customers. "Hey, Oliver," Elon said, catching the young barista's attention. Oliver turned a bit surprised. "Yes, sir." Elon gave him a warm smile. "You're a good person. You treat people with respect." "That's rare." Oliver flushed slightly, unsure of how to respond. Thank you, sir. That means a lot." Lucy snorted from behind the counter. "What's this all about?" Elon glanced at her, then turned back to Oliver. "I appreciate kindness when I see it. Here, call this number tomorrow." He pulled a sleek black business card from his jacket pocket and placed it on the counter. Oliver hesitated, then picked up the card and read the name printed in bold letters, Elon Musk. His breath caught in his throat. He blinked rapidly, glancing between the card and the man standing in front of him. "Wait, you're—" Elon just smiled. "See you soon, Oliver." Lucy's expression twisted into one of pure shock as she finally realized who had been standing in front of her all this time. But it was too late. As Elon walked out the door, he knew this was just the beginning of something much bigger. The sun had risen higher in the London sky, casting golden hues over the towering buildings and busy streets. Inside the Queen's Bean, however, time seemed to stand still for one particular barista. Oliver, still gripping the sleek black business card in his hand, stared at the name in disbelief. The letters spelled out a name he had only ever seen in news articles, on television, and across social media. Elon Musk. The man who had just walked out of the cafe disguised as an ordinary man, whom he had unknowingly treated with kindness, was none other than one of the most powerful men in the world. Lucy, who had spent the morning scoffing at Elon, had finally realized her mistake. Her usual smirk had faded, replaced by a sickly expression of shock and regret. That wasn't really him, right?" she stammered, trying to convince herself that she hadn't just made a complete fool of herself. Oliver didn't answer, his mind still racing. He had seen people come and go in this cafe, but never had he imagined that one of his regular customers would turn out to be a billionaire in disguise. For a moment, Oliver thought back to his brief conversation with Elon. The way he had spoken, the way he had observed everything around him. He wasn't just some rich guy playing a game. He was genuinely testing something, looking for something, and somehow Oliver had passed that test. "What did he say to you?" Lucy demanded, stepping closer. "Why did he give you that card?" Oliver blinked and looked up. "He told me to call the number tomorrow." Lucy scoffed. "Yeah, right? It's probably just some prank. No way someone like him would just offer a job to a barista." But there was a tremor in her voice, one that betrayed the hint of doubt creeping into her mind. What if it was real? Oliver didn't respond. Instead, he slipped the card into his pocket, his heart pounding in his chest. If there was even the slightest chance that this was real, he wasn't going to let it slip through his fingers. That night, Oliver lay awake in his small apartment, staring at the ceiling. The business card sat on the nightstand, almost glowing in the dim light of his bedside lamp. His thoughts swirled between excitement and doubt. What if it was all a joke? What if he called and no one answered? But deep down, he knew the truth. Elon Musk wasn't the type to play meaningless pranks. Morning came far too quickly. With shaking hands, Oliver picked up his phone and dialed the number on the card. It rang once, twice, and then a smooth voice answered. Tesla headquarters, this is Rebecca speaking. How can I help you? Oliver's throat went dry. My name is Oliver. I was given this number by, Mr. Musk. He told me to call. There was a pause on the other end. One moment, please. The line clicked, and suddenly a familiar voice came through. Oliver. Elon's voice was warm, friendly. Glad you called. How's the coffee business treating you today? Oliver let out a nervous chuckle. It's still coffee. But I have to admit, yesterday was probably the most surreal shift of my life. Elon laughed. I can imagine. Listen, I was serious about what I said. I like how you treat people, and I think you deserve an opportunity to do something bigger. If you're interested, I'd like to fly you out to California to visit Tesla's headquarters. We have a position I think you might be perfect for. Oliver nearly dropped his phone. Fly me out to Tesla? Yes. Everything will be covered. You just need to say yes. Oliver didn't need to think twice. Yes. Absolutely yes. 2 days later, Oliver found himself stepping off a private jet in California. The Tesla headquarters was even more impressive than he had imagined. Sleek glass buildings, high-tech laboratories, and an energy of innovation buzzing through the air. He was greeted by a woman named Rebecca, the same voice he had spoken to on the phone, who led him through the massive campus. As they walked, Oliver's nerves threatened to overwhelm him. This was so far from the world of coffee shops and impatient customers. He wasn't sure he belonged here. But then, as they entered one of the conference rooms, there he was, Elon Musk, smiling as if they were old friends. Welcome to Tesla, Oliver, Elon said, extending a hand. Oliver shook it firmly. I still can't believe this is happening. Elon chuckled. Believe it. Now, let's talk about your future. The following days were a whirlwind for Oliver. He was given a full tour of the Tesla campus, shown the intricate workings of cutting-edge technology, and introduced to teams of engineers and innovators. Everywhere he went, he felt an overwhelming sense of purpose. This wasn't just a job. This was a place where people changed the world. On the third day, Elon invited Oliver to his office. So, Oliver, tell me, what are your dreams? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Oliver hesitated. Honestly, I always wanted to be an engineer. I studied mechanical design before my life took a different turn, but I never imagined I'd get a second chance. Elon nodded. You were never just a barista. You have potential, Oliver. I saw it the moment I walked into that cafe. The way you treated people, the way you carried yourself, that's what matters. Skills can be learned, but character is rare. I want you to be part of Tesla's future. Tears stung Oliver's eyes. I don't even know what to say. Say yes, Elon grinned. Oliver took a deep breath and nodded. Yes. Elon clapped a hand on his shoulder. Then welcome to the team. As Oliver stepped out of Elon's office, he felt like he was floating. Just days ago, he had been working a thankless job, wondering if he'd ever get a real shot at his dreams. Now, he was about to embark on a journey that would change his life forever. And to think, it all started with a simple cup of coffee. Oliver could hardly believe how drastically his life had changed in just a matter of days. One moment, he was standing behind the counter of a bustling London cafe, making cappuccinos and dodging sarcastic remarks from his coworker Lucy. The next, he was standing in the middle of Tesla's cutting-edge headquarters in California, shaking hands with some of the brightest minds in the world. And all of it had started because of one unexpected encounter with Elon Musk. Now, dressed in a sleek Tesla-issued suit, Oliver sat in a high-tech conference room, waiting for his first official meeting. His fingers fidgeted slightly, a habit he had developed while working long shifts at the cafe. He took a deep breath, trying to calm the nerves bubbling inside him. He wasn't just here to observe. Elon had made it clear Oliver had a real opportunity to become part of something far bigger than himself. The door opened, and Elon walked in with his usual energetic stride. Oliver, he greeted with a broad smile, clapping him on the back. Hope you're settling in. Ready for your first challenge? Oliver swallowed hard, but managed a confident nod. Absolutely. Elon took a seat at the head of the table and gestured for Oliver to do the same. The room filled quickly as several Tesla engineers and project leads entered, their discussions flowing effortlessly between breakthroughs in battery efficiency and AI-driven manufacturing enhancements. Oliver listened intently, absorbing as much information as he could, but he couldn't shake the feeling of being out of place. "All right," Elon finally said, shifting the conversation. "Before we move forward, I'd like to introduce Oliver. He's a sharp guy with a great eye for detail. More importantly, he understands people. That's an underrated skill in tech." He turned to Oliver. "Tell them a little about yourself." Oliver cleared his throat. "Oh, well, I used to work in a cafe back in London. I studied mechanical engineering before that, but life kind of threw me off track. I always loved technology and problem solving, but I never imagined I'd get a chance like this." One of the engineers, a woman named Priya, leaned forward. "So what made you stand out to Elon?" Oliver glanced at Elon, who simply smirked. "I guess I treated him with respect when I thought he was just a regular guy. I didn't judge him by his appearance." A few chuckles rippled through the room. "A lesson for all of us," one of the engineers muttered. Elon grinned. "Exactly. All right, Oliver. Let's see what you've got. We have a team working on optimizing assembly line processes for the Model Y production. I want you to sit in, observe, and at the end of the day, tell us what you think could be improved. No pressure." Oliver nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and terror. He had expected to start slow, shadowing teams, taking notes. Instead, Elon had just thrown him straight into the heart of innovation. The production floor was unlike anything Oliver had ever seen. Robots moved in perfect synchronization, assembling car components with a level of precision that seemed almost otherworldly. Engineers monitored data feeds, adjusting algorithms and tweaking settings in real time. The sheer complexity of the operation was overwhelming, but Oliver reminded himself that he wasn't expected to be an expert, at least not yet. He observed the workers closely, paying attention to their body language, the way they interacted with the machines, and how small inefficiencies disrupted the flow of work. He noticed one particular station where workers hesitated before making adjustments, their movements just slightly out of sync with the rest of the line. By the end of the day, Oliver found himself back in the conference room with the team, Elon sitting across from him with an expectant look. "All right, Oliver, what did you see?" Oliver took a deep breath. "The production line is incredibly efficient, but I noticed a small bottleneck at Station 7. Workers seem hesitant before making manual adjustments. It might be due to a lack of real-time feedback. If they had an immediate way to confirm whether their input was correct, they could work faster without second-guessing themselves." A few of the engineers exchanged glances. Priya spoke up. "Actually, we have had minor slowdowns in that area, but we weren't sure of the cause. If that's what's happening, it's a solid observation." Elon nodded approvingly. "See? This is why fresh perspectives matter. Oliver, great eye. We'll have the team run some diagnostics based on your feedback." Oliver felt a rush of pride. He had really contributed to something important. As the meeting wrapped up, Elon caught up with Oliver on the way out. "You know, when I first walked into that cafe, I didn't expect to find someone like you. But I had a feeling, and today, you proved that I was right. Keep that mindset, and you'll go far." Oliver smiled, the weight of doubt lifting from his shoulders. "I won't let you down." And for the first time in a long while, he truly believed it. Oliver had barely caught his breath after his first major meeting at Tesla, but there was no time to slow down. The following morning, he was called in for a one-on-one meeting with Elon Musk himself. A part of him still couldn't believe how fast everything had changed. Just a few days ago, he was serving coffee at a cafe in London. Now he was sitting in one of the most futuristic headquarters in the world, awaiting the next step in what felt like a dream. The sleek, minimalist design of Elon's office made it clear that this was a place of vision and execution. The large glass windows overlooked the Tesla factory floor, where thousands of employees worked tirelessly to build some of the most advanced vehicles on the planet. Oliver sat in a modern chair, shifting slightly as his nerves buzzed. Elon walked in, holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to Oliver with a smirk. "Thought you'd appreciate something familiar," he said before taking a seat across from him. Oliver chuckled, accepting the cup. "I have to admit, this is a much better setup than where I was making coffee last week." Elon leaned forward, his expression shifting to something more serious. "Oliver, you did well yesterday. Your observations were sharp, and they confirmed some inefficiencies we've been suspecting but hadn't pinned down yet. You have a natural talent for understanding systems and people. That's rare." Oliver took a sip of his coffee, feeling both pride and pressure. "I'm grateful for this opportunity, but I still feel like I have so much to learn." "Good," Elon said, nodding. "That means you're in the right mindset. Now, I want to push you a little further. I have a challenge for you." Oliver raised an eyebrow. "A challenge?" Elon stood up and walked to the large digital screen on the wall. With a few taps, he pulled up a schematic of a Tesla production line. "One of the biggest hurdles we face is balancing human workers with automation. Some processes still require human intuition, while others are better suited for AI. I want you to spend the next 48 hours analyzing one specific issue: how we can optimize our energy efficiency while maintaining peak production speeds." Oliver's mind raced. This was a massive undertaking. That's a huge problem to solve in 48 hours. Elon grinned. "That's why I chose you. I don't expect a perfect answer, but I do expect you to challenge our current assumptions. You have access to any resource you need: engineers, analysts, data logs. Think outside the box." Oliver swallowed hard, but his determination solidified. "All right, challenge accepted." For the next 2 days, Oliver immersed himself in Tesla's operations. He spent hours on the factory floor, talking to workers, analyzing data, and observing how the automation systems interacted with human workers. He quickly realized that the key problem wasn't just energy efficiency, it was the rhythm of production. Certain areas slowed down not because of mechanical faults, but because human workers hesitated, waiting for confirmation from machines before proceeding. This small lag, repeated thousands of times across multiple shifts, resulted in significant energy waste. He pulled an all-nighter in the research lab, sifting through efficiency reports and cross-referencing them with real-time production data. By the time the 48 hours were up, Oliver felt exhausted but exhilarated. He had something valuable to present. Elon sat at the head of the table in the conference room, surrounded by his top engineers. Oliver stood at the front, a tablet in his hands, ready to deliver his findings. "All right, Oliver," Elon said. "Let's hear it." Oliver took a deep breath. "The inefficiencies aren't just about energy use. The real issue lies in how human workers interact with the automated systems. There's a slight hesitation between machine instructions and human response times. This lag adds up over thousands of repetitions, leading to unnecessary energy expenditure. My suggestion? Implement a predictive AI system that anticipates human movement and adjusts machine timing accordingly." The room fell silent. Then one of the lead engineers leaned forward. "That's actually brilliant. We've been looking at machine efficiency, but we haven't factored in human reaction time." Elon nodded, visibly impressed. "This could change everything. Oliver, you just proved why you belong here. We'll run a prototype model based on your idea." Oliver exhaled, realizing he had just made a major impact in one of the most innovative companies in the world. He had come a long way from pouring coffee in a London cafe, and he knew this was just the beginning. Oliver could barely process what had just happened. He had walked into Tesla with nothing but curiosity and a willingness to learn, and now, after just a few days, he had made a suggestion that could change the way production worked forever. But his journey wasn't over yet. Elon Musk had one final challenge for him. The morning after Oliver's breakthrough presentation, he was called into Elon's office once again. This time, the atmosphere felt different. There was an air of finality, as if the next few hours would determine everything. Elon greeted him with his usual energy. "Oliver, you've done something most people don't get the chance to do. You walked into Tesla as an outsider, and in less than a week, you've already contributed to something groundbreaking. Now, I have one last test for you." Oliver sat forward, intrigued. "I'm listening." Elon tapped on his desk, and a holographic projection appeared between them, displaying complex data points and factory blueprints. This is the new model production facility we're designing for the next generation of Tesla vehicles. It's meant to be the most efficient factory ever built. But before we move forward, I want you to find one last area for improvement. Something nobody has seen yet. Oliver's eyes widened. You want me to analyze an entire facility design? Elon grinned. Exactly. You have 24 hours. If you find something significant, you'll have proven that you belong here permanently. Oliver knew he had no time to waste. He left the office and immediately got to work. He dove into the factory schematics, reviewing automation sequences, human workflow integration, and power distribution. He consulted engineers, gathered real-time insights, and even walked through Tesla's existing production lines to compare what had already been optimized. As the night stretched on, Oliver found himself in a secluded section of the facility, deep in thought. That's when he noticed it. An anomaly in the energy flow between various production stages. Certain sections of the assembly line used more power than necessary, not because of inefficiency, but because they weren't properly synchronized with other systems. If he could correct this imbalance, it could save Tesla millions in operational costs. By dawn, Oliver was back in Elon's office, exhausted but confident. "I found it," he announced, placing his report on the desk. Elon skimmed through it, his eyes lighting up as he read. "This is brilliant. No one else caught this. Oliver, you've done it." A slow smile spread across Oliver's face. "Does this mean?" Elon stood up and extended his hand. "Welcome to Tesla. You're officially part of the team." Oliver shook his hand, feeling a surge of pride and relief. It was official. He wasn't just a barista anymore. He was part of something revolutionary. As he left the office, he thought back to that fateful day at the Café in London. Who would have guessed that a single act of kindness would lead him here? And yet it had. This was just the beginning of his journey.